Hey everyone, Rob Gabriele here, managing editor of safehome.org. Today we're talking with Dr. Alex Packer. Dr. Alex Packer is an educator, psychologist, and award-winning author of 11 books, including Slaying Digital Dragons, Tips and Tools for Protecting Your Body, Brain, Psyche, and Thumbs from the Digital Dark Side. He is an expert on adolescent developmental and digital well-being, and he received undergraduate and master's degrees from Harvard College and the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and a PhD in educational and developmental psychology from Boston College. Throughout his career, Dr. Alex Packer has focused on empowering young people to take responsibility for their lives and choices, which he believes is key to leading a healthy digital life. All right, thanks again, Alex, for sitting and talking with me today. We could just go ahead and jump right into the questions. So first, can you tell us a little bit about your background in helping youth to develop into digitally responsive adults?
Yeah, I've worn many hats over the years, and my focus has been adolescent development and addictive behaviors and parenting and alternative education environments. And I think the way that relates to helping kids become, responsible digital citizens is I've always had this focus on empowering them, on giving them good information, giving them respect, validation, using a lot of humor. And I think that's the best way to help them take responsibility for their lives. And this is especially important in the area of digital responsibility, because they need to make technology their tool and not become its tool. And I think this approach is very useful to parents as well, because many parents, probably most parents, tend to focus on how much time their kids are spending on a screen. And of course, that's important. Your life can be imbalanced if it's too much time. Some parents think it's too much. Other parents think it's way too much. I've never had a parent tell me, I'm worried, I don't think my kid's spending enough time on screens. So the importance of this for parents is that they should think about how their child is spending that time, because not all screen time is the same. Is your child creating or vegetating? Are they active participants or are they just spectators? Is their screen time a healthy balance of, social media and games and learning and connecting and discovering, or are they spending 8 hours a day, playing video games? How does their screen time make them feel? Do they feel proud and productive and connected, or do they feel depressed or uncool? So, you put all that together, and I think what's important is for parents not to take responsibility for their kids' screen time. That just creates a conflict. So parents can build a partnership, not a power struggle. And the way you do that, it's just like what you might do with sexuality education or helping kids to be responsible when it comes to alcohol or drugs. You want to create a dialogue and always keep the channels open for communication. Listen to your kids, ask them questions, don't judge, assume, preach. And I think that's the healthiest approach parents can take to help their kids take charge of their digital lives.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that. And so in your book, you talk a lot about the dark side of the digital world. What is the dark side of the digital world? And are there any red flags or warning signs of the dark side?
There sure are. And when I talk about the dark side, I always want to start by saying, I love the internet. I don't know what I would do without my digital life. And I probably spend an average of 7 to 9 hours a day on screens myself. So I'm not coming at this, holier than thou. If I hear a notification, I jump to see what it is, but I've learned to turn my notifications off when I need to. So the dark side, I think of it in two ways. There's what I call the macro dark side, and that's the malevolent side. I mean, that's the part of the internet, the digital world that is destroying the foundations of many societies, of democracy, of free and fair elections, shared facts and values, but spreading lies and misinformation and leading to so much of the divisiveness in our culture today. The whole business model of this dark side is based on gluing your eyeballs to the screen. These companies want to manipulate you, influence you, and even addict you. And they use algorithms that will arouse your emotions. That's what keeps you on the screen. Content of fake news and conspiracy theories and things that engage you with anger and resentment, that content it travels 6 times faster and deeper online than less emotionally arousing content. So in a sense, these companies need to feed you that type of information to increase your time on their platforms. And they use psychology and neurochemistry and human nature to design these platforms to keep your eyeballs there. The other aspect is what I call the micro side. And that's how the internet affects you as an individual. And absolutely, there are warning signs. And I think it's important for young people to be aware of them. And you can think of those warning signs in terms of the different areas of, say, a teen's life. There's their body, their brain, their schooling, their relationships, their reputation, their future. And in every one of those categories, you can identify specific characteristics. And I do this in Slaying Digital Dragons, so kids can see if any of those apply to them. And if they realize that they do apply, then there are tips and tools for resetting their digital life to a more healthy level.
And so what is the most impactful thing that you could tell a teen who might be getting swallowed up in the digital world?
The most important thing is to be mindful, to lead an examined digital life. I think for so many of us, we just got sucked into it. We don't make conscious decisions about much of what we do. There's some new cool app and we go to it and suddenly we're spending 3 hours a day on it. So I would say being mindful is probably the number one protective thing they can do. Another thing is to recognize that their online trail is really their brand. They're creating a brand for themselves online, and they need to use what I call brand sanitizer to make sure that that trail is a healthy one, and that if teachers or boyfriends or girlfriends or future employers see it, that it's not going to turn them off. I think teens need to understand the degree to which certain big tech corporations are trying to manipulate and control their choices and to addict them. They need to think about the content they're viewing and have skills to tell if it's lies and misinformation. It's important that they use their time to do good for themselves, for others online. And you might ask, well, won't teens be resistant to this. You know, their devices are like a significant other, you know, they can't live without them. And I think teens are ready for this message because 40 to 50% of teens in 2 different surveys said that they feel addicted to their devices. 90% of them believe that too much screen time is a problem for their peers. 43% wish they could unplug from time to time, and 7 out of 10 teens recognize that companies are trying to manipulate them. So I think their kids are primed to have more information so that they can make informed choices for their screen scene.
Okay. And so I know that you travel a lot. Do you see similar digital habits in youth abroad, or is it different in other countries?
I see both. The similarity seems to come from the fact that the tasks of adolescents are similar pretty much across all cultures, you know, human beings. And people that age are building their independence, they're building skills, they want to have more intimate relationships, they're leaving home, they're much more focused on peers and their social lives. So that means that across virtually all countries, kids are going to be flocking to social media and music and streaming and being creative in many ways and shopping and, you know, all the things that people do in their lives. But I think there also are differences that seem to be based on the cultural values of a particular country, on regulation, on authoritarianism, on, you know, the extent of maybe family togetherness, the nature of education in that country, the opportunities for participatory activities outside of school. I mean, for example, in surveys that assess the level of intense use of the internet, like in Switzerland, it's 17% of kids say they're always online. In Italy, it's 50%. Wow. And if you think of problematic use, where kids are more addictive in their relationship to it, in the Netherlands, it's 3%, in Spain, it's 14%. So I think there are those differences. And the greatest factor, though, seems to be wealth. If you look at low income versus high income families and low versus high income countries, that's where you can see a range from, say, 6% to 87% of homes that have internet. So yes, I do see some differences.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. And so I know that you also encourage teens to give themselves an app-endectomy to reset their digital lives. What exactly is an app-endectomy, and how can a teen conduct one?
It's a self-intervention, a guided process that I've created to help strengthen kids' resistance to the dark side, to cut out unhealthy aspects of their digital life, to strengthen their immunity against the worst elements, and to, you know, help them achieve a balanced, productive, joyful online scene. And it's really the culmination of a process throughout Slaying Digital Dragons, where I have teens, through a series of wacky challenges, assess their own screen scene and to understand the warning signs, the different ways that their body, their brain, their psyche, their relationships can all be affected. So the app-endectomy is where they identify one goal that they want to work on. And that's key, because you can be overwhelmed. When you have a sense of you're drowning in a problem, you can be overwhelmed. So it's just choose one goal. And then the appendectomy leads them through steps where they prepare for the operation. This would be building a support team, selecting tools that will help them achieve the particular goal, identifying threats to their plan, coming up with counter threats and alternative activities. And step by step, they reach a point where they've got this plan, can put it into effect. And then I have checklists so they can monitor their progress. And if they encounter any glitches, there's a whole troubleshooting section where they can look for the problem they're having and find some ideas for addressing it.
Okay, great. And just as a quick disclaimer, now this isn't a medical procedure we're talking about, appendectomy. It's app-endectomy, so like smartphone app, right?
Right, exactly. I don't want them getting out their scalpels.
No, that would be bad. Okay, great. And so now that the dragons are slain, if you will, what does a healthy relationship with screens look like? And maybe you could walk us through a week in the life of a reformed teen, if you would.
I'll say up front, it's hard to generalize because I'm encouraging teens to find a relationship to their devices that works for them. But I think I can suggest some common denominators for a healthy relationship. The first would be that the teen is in charge. These teens, they're mindful. They know what they want to do online. They may have limits that they've set for themselves. They're seeking and achieving a healthy balance when they do go online. They're not spending all their time doing just one thing. They've got certain strategies they use. Maybe when they wake up in the morning, they don't jump on their phone. Maybe they give themselves 10 minutes of quiet time, personal time. Maybe they turn their phone off an hour before bedtime. That is one of the best things you can do to help the quality of your sleep. Their screen time aligns with their values. They're not going to sites or doing things where afterwards they feel guilty or ashamed about it. They also have a lot of healthy face-to-face time in their lives. Maybe it's sports or extracurricular activities. They can resist the negative elements, identify and resist them when they do encounter them. And, their screen time becomes a positive force in their life. And, adolescence is a time of passion and imbalance. And I'm all for that. I just saw a story on the news about 2 college freshmen who spent 3 days nonstop, not sleeping, and they created essentially an Airbnb for Ukrainian refugees.
Wow.
That's wonderful. I take my hat off to them. And I would never say, oh, you just spent 3 days online. So you always have to think of it in terms of the individual child and how they're spending that time.
How can parents buy your books or connect with you on this topic?
The book is available through all the online book selling platforms. And the best way to connect with me would be through my website, which is alexjpacker.com.
Excellent. Okay, well, that's all of our time for today. Thank you so much, Alex, again, for sitting and talking with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yep. And signing off with Safe Home.